This is True News, the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help us God. Hundreds of people previously employed by Israel's Unit 8200 intelligence operation now work for Facebook, Google, Microsoft, and other big American social media and technology companies, according to a report by Mint Press. We will give you the details later today. First, however, let's look at this CNN video clip from last night's speech in the U.S. House of Representatives by Ukraine's President Zelensky, the world's highest paid comedian.
I know that everything depends on us, on Ukrainian armed forces, yet so much depends on the world. So much in the world depends on you. When I was in Bakhmut yesterday, our heroes gave me the flag, the battle flag, the flag of those who defend Ukraine, Europe, and the world at the cost of their lives. They asked me to bring this flag to you, to the U.S. Congress, to members of the House of Representatives and senators whose decisions can save millions of people. So let these decisions be taken. Let this flag stay with you, ladies and gentlemen. This flag is a symbol of our victory. In this war, we stand, we fight, and we will win because we are united. Ukraine, America, and the entire free world.
Well, Doc,
I have so much I could say on that clip.
well, just say it, because what they did is that they unfurled the flag of a foreign country in the House of Representatives.
Yes. So
You're not allowed to do that.
no, it's that should have offended every single American last night. And then I'm like thinking in my mind, did he lose a bet where he had to kiss Nancy Pelosi, or they give him an extra?
Well, it could have been Paul.
An extra $1 billion. Hey, we dare you. If you kiss Nancy, we'll give you an extra $1 billion.
Well, the option was to kiss Paul.
Yeah. So,
but Paul had a hammer.
But still, the fact that they unfurled a flag, you got the Vice President of the United States and the Speaker of the House holding a foreign flag in the House of Representatives. But there's absolutely no outcry in the media about that today. None at all.
No, they made him to be a Winston Churchill.
Right.
Churchill came to town.
Right. Well, at least when Churchill came to town, he dressed up for the occasion. He didn't wear, a track uniform. So,
what do you think this is about? I mean, this is, a minor topic. Zelensky's wardrobe. I think it's a wardrobe that he was given. I'm talking about the green. Whether it's a T-shirt or a pullover sweater. It's. Obviously the man has business suits, because we've seen photographs in previous times that he's business suit. But for this war, his handlers, and he does have handlers. Mm-hmm. It's like Hollywood said, here's your wardrobe. This is the role you're playing. You're an actor. You're a comedian. Here's your wardrobe. You're going to dress in green all the time, even when you speak to the United States House of Representatives, even when you go into the White House, you're going to wear this outfit.
Right.
But I think it was chosen for him, and it's part of the image that his handlers created for him.
Right, to make it appear, hey, I just walked off the battlefield here. Look, I'm still wearing, my military uniform here. this is where I'm at. I don't have to dress up for you anyway. I'm the one making the demands. I'm the one really that's in charge. I brought the shopping list that I need, and you're going to fulfill it. You also saw every member of the chamber there standing ovation constantly over and over and over again.
It's interesting, not every member.
Yeah, not every member.
Only 86 Republicans showed up.
Yes.
That's interesting.
And
that means he's going to have a hard time come January begging for more money. Now, that doesn't mean the Republicans are going to cut him off. I think it's going to be difficult to get more. But only 86 Republicans attended the Love Fest last night.
Yes. So,
well, let's talk about what Mr. Zelensky got. Again, I said, I said in the introduction that highest paid comedian. Just think about all the comedians over the past 100 years. None of them would ever dream to be paid like Zelensky.
yes. And most of the money he has raised has been on Zoom calls. This is his first in-person event in a year. Think about that.
That's true.
I mean, everything else,
Zoom and shame.
Yeah.
That was his operation, Zoom and shame. I'll make a Zoom call and I'll shame you into giving me more money.
And I had a thought yesterday, I meant to ask you about it. Really, is this visit by Zelensky, and it was orchestrated by the White House, of course, is this like a Hail Mary for what they're wanting right now? I mean, do they see, all right, the end of the money pipeline is coming real quick. We've got to get this last big push in before everything shuts down.
The event was for the American public because the Republicans are taking over in January. This was orchestrated. It was also done for Nancy Pelosi. This was her going away party. That's her last event.
Thought about that before.
That was her last event as Speaker of the House. That's it. So that was for her, but it was also for the American people, a public relations stunt to build the support for backing Ukraine, because the atmosphere, the environment is going to change in January.
Do you think the American public bought Zelensky's presentation, though? I know that was what it was for, but they've got to look at a guy in a green suit, speaking before Congress and say, what sort of nonsense is this?
I don't think many people in the country are paying attention to it. The political people are, and the portion of the American public that follows politics would be watching it. But the general public is not watching it. They're trying to.
They're watching TikTok and
the
latest episode of Yellowstone.
They have more important things to do. But this was to generate public support. Going into January, knowing that the political winds are going to change and they need all the help that they can get. I mean, all the reports said that the Biden administration orchestrated this event, put it together in the last 10 days. We sent military planes there to pick him up.
Right.
The Pentagon brought him here. I mean, this was an orchestrated public relations event. Well, anyhow, today, just a few hours ago, the Wall Street Journal reported Ukraine diplomatic flurry centers on war, not peace. It's a long article, but I just want to show you two quotes in this article. Diplomacy is ramping up around Russia's war in Ukraine. But rather than focusing on negotiations, talks are centered on hardening each side's battlefield position before a potential Russian offensive that Ukraine and its allies expect early next year. Now, let's just hold it here. So let's talk about this. The fact that both sides are hardening their positions.
Right.
That's actually what combatants do before negotiations. You take your strongest stand, and you're going to the negotiation table with your ironclad, rock solid demands These are non-negotiable demands.
Right.
Both sides doing it. Both sides are going to try to inflict maximum pain on each other before the negotiations. That's what's taking place. The U.S. is going to hurt Russia the most that they can without getting a nuclear war. Russia is going to hurt Ukraine the most as it can without starting a nuclear war.
Yes.
The next couple months is going to be horrific for the people of Ukraine. It's going to be horrible fighting taking place the next several months. I would say January, February, because Putin is not going to back down in the winter. That's his strong thing. He's waited all year to get to the winter.
Because Russia can rule the winter.
It's going to rule the winter, and I have a feeling they have some big surprises planned for the winter. That's my guess. They're going to roll out the big stuff. Not nuclear, but I think their attacks are going to be intensified. I think they're going to bring out other weapons. I think they're going to do things. We may see satellites taken out.
I mean, that was the threat by General Shoigu yesterday.
Yes.
I mean, he mentioned it specifically. There's 500 satellites providing intel for Ukraine.
They may take out satellites. But the January, February is going to be intense. It is going to be extremely ugly for the people of Ukraine. There's going to be a lot of suffering in Ukraine. And they said both sides are hardening their positions on the battlefield before a potential Russian offensive takes place. That's what I'm talking about. They all expect the Russians to unleash their full fury in January, February, just short of nuclear weapons. The other thing, we'll go to the next quote. This is Wall Street Journal. Ukrainian President Zelensky on Wednesday implored U.S. leaders to provide his country with more weaponry and deliver it quickly during a visit to Washington, his first trip outside Ukraine since Russia launched its large-scale invasion on February 24. Again, Zelensky knows it's coming to an end.
Yes.
Most of his country is without electricity, and winter has started.
But I thought Russia was losing the war, Rick. Why does Ukraine need all this more money?
Because it's all propaganda.
Right. It's absolutely propaganda. Russia's not losing, or else they wouldn't need the money for Ukraine.
Yeah, Russia's bleeding. That's for sure. You can't be in a war and not bleed. They're bleeding. They're bleeding real blood on the battlefield, and they're bleeding financially, and they're bleeding politically, but they're not losing. Ukraine is losing, and there's hardly any electricity in the country. And this is the end of the year.
Yes.
And the cold winter's just starting. And the Russians are just getting ready to get mean. So what I think is coming, Doc, is probably by March, maybe as late as April, there'll be peace talks. That's what I think. If nukes aren't used. I don't think either side wants to use nukes, but it wouldn't take a lot to spark a nuclear war. But I think there's going to be intense fighting January, February, and by March, April, Europe is going to be devastated in terms of energy. They're going to be out of gas by March.
And depending on how cold it gets in Europe, it could be a lot sooner than that.
And the European people are going to be demanding explanations from their politicians. Tell us again why we're suffering. Tell us one more time. Why did we go through the winter with no heat, no electricity? Tell us the reason.
Tell me why my kids are cold and hungry.
Yes, because we had electricity, we had gas, we had energy before the war started. You guys started this war. Now explain to us. And I think that's coming. You could see political instability in Europe this winter. And they know it. The European leaders know it.
And they've already been prepared.
They're talking about it. The next story, this is France 24, why the U.S. declined to send Ukraine long-range missiles and tanks.
Right, and I was talking with you earlier about this too. Let's look at the article and we can discuss some more about it. Ukraine wants to conduct a large-scale offensive as soon as it can, and that requires a large Army Corps and lots of protected mobility. And that was explained by Shashank Joshi, defense editor of The Economist. They don't have enough to equip the entire Corps, as head of the Ukrainian Armed Forces, General Valery Zaluzny, told colleagues at The Economist. The Ukrainians are very open about the need for more armored vehicles. Now, as we go on into this, responding to Ukrainian demands during Zelensky's visit, Joe Biden was more explicit than ever in refusing to send Kiev ATACMS, which would be able to strike targets within Russia. The U.S. president warned it risked alienating European NATO members. They're not looking to go to war with Russia, he said.
Okay, that last line, Doug. U.S. President Biden warned that it risked alienating NATO members who don't want to go to war with Russia. So that tells us there's division inside NATO.
Right.
Pardon the pun, but the European members are starting to get cold feet.
Right.
Literally cold feet. Because there's going to be electricity blackouts. There's going to be gas shortages. And they're realizing this is going to be difficult to hold on to power in our own country this winter. And to send long-range missiles to Ukraine, that's going to guarantee a Russian response, and that response means nuclear warheads landing in European capitals.
That's right. And so with ATACMS, escalations are the primary concern. They could attack quite deep within Russia, and if the Ukrainians were to use them to do so, that could well cause a fissure within NATO about how to respond. There's a range of European countries, including in Southern Europe, that are wary of escalation. They want war with Russia, just not too much war with Russia.
It's a proxy war. They want to bleed out the Ukrainian army fighting Russia. It's a proxy war.
Yes.
But the Europeans and the Americans don't want their own troops to be in that war.
Right.
Well, they're quite content to let the Ukrainians bleed out.
So,
because the purpose of the war is to weaken and destroy Russia. Not physically destroy Russia, destroy it politically and economically so that the warmongers in the West and the banksters can seize Russian land and resources. That's the goal.
And then prepare for the next war.
And to break up Russia. Doc, they've won it for decades.
Oh, yes.
To break up Russia, to balkanize it, to turn it into maybe 8, 10 small Russias. That's the plan. They don't want to nuke it. They don't want to destroy it. They want the farms. They want it. They want the farms. They want the resources. They want the oil, the gas. But they don't want Russia as one big country. They want to bust it up and turn it into 8 or 10 small countries that they control, the banksters.
So next article that we have here, Rick, this is from Telegraph, and this seems almost opposed to what we just saw. It says Europe could send long-range offensive missiles to Ukraine if Biden gives the green light.
Yeah, I think this one's propaganda.
Okay.
Yeah, I think somebody in London fed that line to the Telegraph. There are people obviously that inside the deep state that want these long-range missiles sent, and I think that was a propaganda article to promote the idea, if we could just get Biden to say yes, all these other countries will send the missiles. But it contradicts what the other articles are saying.
Yes.
So I don't think they want to do it. Newsweek: U.S. patriots for Ukraine will have unimaginable result. That's according to Russia's ambassador to the United States.
Yes, that's Anatoly Antonov. And he's warning that the arrival of the first Patriot surface-to-air missile system in Ukraine could have consequences which cannot even be imagined. His comments come amid expanding American aid for Kiev and President Vladimir Zelensky's trip to Washington, which have rankled the Kremlin.
You know, also, Doc, going back to Zelensky's trip, and we know it was organized by the Biden administration, coordinated by the Pentagon. I mean, they sent escort military planes to bring him there.
Right.
The Russians are looking at this. They're like, what is going on here? The Biden administration rolled out the red carpet for Zelensky, put him in the House of Representatives. They unfurled the Ukrainian flag. They kissed the Speaker of the House. And they're giving him tens of billions of dollars of weapons and aid. And the Russians are saying, okay, so you want to fight. You want to keep this war going. You want our soldiers to keep dying. That's what the Russians are saying to the United States. They're watching this, saying, oh, you don't want to end this war. You want to prolong this war. You want more Russian soldiers to die. And so the Russian leadership, they're going to double down this winter. What Biden did was tick off Putin.
And harden the Russian position.
Guarantee it hardened it. The war hawks convinced Biden, you've got to play tough with Putin and you got to make him mad. And that's what they just did. So what did Putin do Wednesday? He talked about
unlimited resources, and you'll have everything you need, and we're calling up another 500,000 men.
And we're stepping up the combat readiness of our nuclear forces.
And it seems like most of NATO is convinced something big is coming in January, first couple weeks of January. So we need to be prepared for that. Well, it's not limited to just Ukraine. We're going to have us a world war here. This is from Ynet News. So this is Israel's spy chief. Iran intends to supply Russia with advanced weapons. Israel's spy chief on Thursday warned of the dangerous and threatening processes on the part of Iran, warning of the Islamic Republic's intention to deepen and expand the supply of advanced nuclear weapons to Russia.
Wait a minute. Doc, this is why I brought this line out. My eyeballs came out of my head when I read this today. They probably came out 6-7 inches. Okay? Because, you know, I see the article, oh, okay, I'm going to use this article. And then I read this line. Israel's spy chief says that Iran is determined to deepen and expand the supply of advanced nuclear weapons to Russia. I didn't know Iran had advanced nuclear weapons.
Well, and it's funny you mentioned that because there's been
what did they just tell us?
Yeah, they told us that Iran has nuclear weapons.
Not just, but they have advanced nuclear weapons.
Right.
That was just dropped in that article like, oh, by the way, you all know this, right? They have advanced nuclear weapons.
I saw a comment on social media the other day that said, you know Iran has the bomb, right? They have it right now, and they've had it for a while. And then we see this article today. Well, it's not just a bomb. They've got advanced nuclear weapons. Advanced enough that they can supply Russia with them. Think about that. Russia, the superpower Russia.
Well, Doc, I will go back 20-some years in my memory. And actually, it goes back further. It would go back to the 1990s, early 90s, after the fall of the Soviet Union. There were rumors that generals in the Soviet military sold Soviet ICBMs. The two countries reportedly well, let me say it like this. The ICBMs with nuclear warheads were taken from the part of the Soviet Union called Ukraine.
That's right.
And they were sold reportedly to China and Iran. Now, I doubt if you could find those articles on the internet today because Google has sanitized the internet. I seriously doubt you could ever find this stuff. But if it was true, and Soviet generals sold ICBMs and warheads from missile installations in Ukraine, and they went to China and they went to Iran, then Ukraine would know that Iran has nuclear weapons because they sold it to them.
Right.
But the Israeli spy chief, I mean, Doc, unless
to
this
say
is
it outside,
unless this is a typo, unless Ynet News got it wrong, which I seriously doubt. I mean, maybe they just meant to say deepen and expand the supply of advanced non-nuclear weapons.
But he didn't say that.
It says, well, I mean, we'll wait tomorrow and see if Ynet News corrects this article. But if they don't, then we're going to take it that he said Iran has advanced nuclear weapons and they're selling it to Russia. Wait, you're telling me that Iran has weapons, nuclear weapons, more advanced than what Russia has?
That was my argument there. And so, so you have Iran. Well, first of all, Iran's not some backwater country either.
No.
They haven't been blown out of existence by the West yet.
It's Persia.
Right, it's ancient Persia. We've talked in the past about maybe they have access to ancient secrets too. Who knows? That's another topic. But Iran is very technologically advanced. And that's why they're a threat to Israel, a big threat to Israel. But for them to come out today and say, even kid around with this, Israel knows they have nukes. They know. They know it.
Well, then, are we watching the beginning of the process of tying Iran to Russia to Ukraine? And now you have to take out both of them.
That's right. And then you tie in North Korea with that too, because there were reports here a few weeks ago North Korea was selling technology to Russia.
Well, wait a minute. That's our very next article.
There you go. Reuters, U.S. says Russia's Wagner Group bought North Korean weapons for the Ukraine war. Okay, so the private Russian military company, Wagner Group, took delivery of an arms shipment from North Korea to help bolster Russian forces in Ukraine, a sign of the group's expanding role in that conflict. And this was issued by the White House earlier today. Wagner is searching around the world for arms suppliers to support its military operations in Ukraine. And that was from John Kirby, spokesperson for the White House National Security Council. We can confirm that North Korea has completed an initial arms delivery to Wagner, which paid for that equipment. Last month, North Korea delivered infantry rockets and missiles into Russia for use by Wagner. The United States estimates that Wagner has 50,000 personnel deployed in Ukraine, including 10,000 contractors and 40,000 convicts recruited from Russian prisons, Kirby said. So,
about 2 months ago, we reported that the railroad train connecting North Korea and Russia had been reopened for the first time in years. And we speculated, we said, okay, they're not hauling passengers.
Right.
They're either hauling goods, materials, resources, or weapons. So if this is true, that might explain why the train is running again between North Korea and Russia.
And if I recall, that same article said that there are a number of North Korean military advisors that they were planning to bring to on the ground, boots on the ground
into Ukraine.
Right.
That's right. Forgot about that. They were going to put thousands of North Korean military advisors in Ukraine.
Well, we're going to have us a world war once it gets started.
Well, Doc, there's more. Moldova. Here, look at this. War is inevitable, according to the leaders of Moldova. War in the next several months.
But here's what's weird about this. Moldova is convinced that Russia is going to attack them.
Yes.
Now, this was what caught me out, off guard. So you get into this article here, and it starts off, rampant inflation, mass protests, the socio-economic crisis in Moldova is intensifying. Most of the opposition media were closed in the country for, quote, working for Moscow. The authorities are talking about the imminent Russia invasion. Now, Rick, have you heard anything about the imminent Russian invasion of Moldova?
No.
Well,
no, not at all. So we're now being told Putin is sitting in the Kremlin and he's looking at
rubbing his hands.
He's looking at a map of Moldova saying, I could take them.
I don't believe it.
No. You know where else there's trouble? Kosovo and Serbia. Somebody's stirring up unrest.
Somebody is dropping information or hints or ginning up a story.
Yes, rumors.
The head of the Information Security Service, which is basically their CIA there in Moldova, Alexander Musteda, said that Russia would attack Moldova. Now, listen to this, said that Russia would attack Moldova either in January, February, or in March to April. What's going to happen, Moscow will seize Transnistria, and he does not yet know what will happen next. Later, the SIB clarified that the strike would come from the territory of Ukraine. So they've either been given the script for, this is the way the war is going to go down here, and we're going to bring you guys in on it too. Or they're making up a story because right now, Moldova is going through a big political crisis. There's potential change of leadership that's going on. The lady that you saw on the still there, her name's Maya Sandu. She's the leader of Moldova, but her her popularity is decreasing. The displeasure with population is increasing, and there's other people that are, trying to make a move for the presidency.
And she literally, earlier this week, took over, shut down the newspapers and television stations in Moldova because their news reporting was
too pro-Russian.
It was too pro-Russian and not and anti-Ukraine.
Yes.
So she just shut them down. All right, but that's democracy.
Yes.
At work. But
rule.
what we wanted you to see is that once again, here's another country saying war is inevitable. It's coming in months, January, February, or March or April. We're expecting to be invaded. Now, did NATO whisper in their ears, hey, we have intelligence. You're going to be invaded. Did Israel tell them? Who told them they're going to be invaded? Where did they get this information that they're going to be invaded? I mean, somebody's planted this in their head. I can't imagine the Russians are planning to expand the war and capture Moldova.
That would shock me.
That would shock me. I would have to wonder what Mr. Putin is thinking or smoking if he would do something like that. But the possibility is, Doc, if the fighting becomes extremely intense in Ukraine in January and February,
it very well could spill over into neighboring countries.
Remember, Putin went to see Lukashenko days ago.
Right.
And he said that they were going to supply them with special weapons. I don't know what a special weapon looks like, but Putin does. And he's going to give Lukashenko's army special weapons. Not just weapons, but special weapons. They're going to train them how to use those special weapons. There's been talk for months that the Belarusian army is going to join the Russian army in Ukraine. Maybe, I mean, I'd have to look at a map to see where attacks could come from, Doc, that would draw Moldova into this war.
Well, I mean, you have missiles fall into Poland, which they blamed on the Russians, but we know it wasn't the Russians.
Right.
Something very well could happen in a few months or a few weeks now. A missile from Ukraine. Notice they say from the territory of Ukraine.
Yes.
You know, okay, so who's in Ukraine? Well, there's a lot of Ukrainians in Ukraine.
Yes.
And this might be an opportunity to draw Moldova into the conflict. And so...
well, wars and rumors of wars.
Yes, sir.
Next story, FTX founder Bankman-Fried to be released on $250 million bond. And he's going to be under house arrest in his parents' home. Now, his parents
I have to live with my mom and dad.
Yes, but they live in a home that they paid for with stolen money.
You know, the other day he told the court he only had $100,000. So where did he come up with $250 million?
Well, that was my next question. Who came up with the $250 million? Did it come from the stolen money?
And that's a great question. So
you're using stolen money to put up the bail to get the crypto crook out of jail.
I mean, he testified in front of a court that he only had $100,000. So someone had to pony up that money.
So is he still in the Bahamas?
From what I can tell, yes. I don't think he's been transferred to the U.S. yet.
Because the Bahamas is where his parents live, but they live in that complex. I mean, he bought like $130 million worth of real estate in the Bahamas, and that's all with stolen money.
Right.
So what happened was some of his accomplices pleaded guilty. And
his ex-girlfriend.
Yes, his ex-girlfriend. So they pleaded guilty and became state witnesses. They're going to testify against him so that they don't go to prison. So somebody came up with $250 million bail. And nobody in the media is asking the question, who did it and where did they get the money?
Right. Was it from his mom and dad? Was it from a good friend?
Well, his mom and dad don't have $250 million.
Right. So
the money, they stole billions of dollars. Billions. And they come up with a $250 million bail.
He is in the U.S., by the way.
He is in the U.S.
Yes,
now?
Sir.
Okay.
Yes.
One thing I want you to look at with this article is just a little side note here. Sam Bankman-Fried will be released on a $250 million package while he awaits trial on fraud charges related to the collapse of the FTX crypto exchange, a federal magistrate judge said on Thursday. His defense lawyer, Mark Cohen, declined to comment. Number 28, Nicholas Ruse, prosecutor, told U.S. Magistrate Judge Gabriel Gorenstein.
Okay.
Doc, you're jumping ahead of me, that the bail package would require Bankman-Fried to surrender his passport and remain in home confinement at his parents' home in Palo Alto, California. So it's not the home in...
Right, not the Bahamas.
So
home.
I don't know how they bought their Palo Alto home. So I have suspicion that the properties purchased in the Bahamas came from the stolen money. But what's interesting in this story is Sam Bankman-Fried, the crypto crook, his defense attorney, Mark Cohen, the prosecutor, Nicholas Ruse, and the federal judge, Gabriel Gorenstein, just all happen to be Jewish. It's a small world, Doc.
It is.
It's just a small world.
And you're not in it.
And I'm not in it. I'm not in that world. Okay, let's move on.
You know, I'm just, I was looking at further on in that particular article. It says that the $250 million bail was secured with equity on the Palo Alto home.
What?
Yes. His parents secured his bail with the equity in their house.
250, well, I mean, they didn't have to come up with 250. What?
Right, use it 10%.
2.5.
Well, no,
25 million. 25 million.
So,
Yeah.
I mean, so it's worth at least that much.
Yes.
And that's just some equity in it. So that's interesting. I just happened to see that. So,
Well, you know, the prosecutor, Mr. Ruse, he's been involved in quite a few high-profile cases recently. Steve Bannon, Giuliani. This guy is brought in for big cases. Okay, it's going to be an interesting one to watch. This next one is just for a laugh, folks. Mike Lindell was doing his video show, and so he's talking about the election fraud, the alleged election fraud, and of course he's involved in a lawsuit with Dominion voting machines. And as he was speaking on his video podcast,
which was yesterday. So.
Yes, it was yesterday. He just stopped in mid-sentence and didn't finish his comment, and then looked at his assistant and just said, "You have to carry on." And so apparently he had an earpiece.
And you'll see him talking, but there's nothing coming out of his mouth.
So apparently he had an earpiece, and he either a producer or an attorney was speaking to him saying, "You need to zip your lips and stop talking right now." Let's watch it.
I'm going to break a little breaking news, Brandon, here right now, that this will probably surprise a lot of people. And I don't know if you know about it, but do you know what I took my about, you know, a lot of my team, at least the cyber team and the IT people. Do you know what county in the country I'm having them focus on?
What?
For the next couple weeks?
What? Which one?
It is just hold on a second. Go talk there. I'm gonna see if I'm getting advice from my attorney here, not to say.
Well, Rick, now, the day before, he did mention that there was one county that he was going to focus on.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know what county that was?
No.
Miami-Dade.
Mm-hmm.
And, of course, Ron DeSantis won big in Miami-Dade here in South Florida. Right. And Mr. Lindell made the case the other day saying this isn't right. This is off, this is off the charts. A Republican should not have won. And so he said, and this was 2 days ago, that he's going to have his team look at the irregularities in Miami-Dade County. So there's a lot going on here. And then he was going to...
Ron DeSantis won Miami-Dade simply because the Hispanics in Florida, the Cubans, the Puerto Ricans, like DeSantis.
Right. We understand that we're here in Florida.
We live here.
But Mr. Lindell did make the case 2 days ago that his team was going to be looking into irregularities in Miami-Dade. Now, is this a ploy to, to show support for Donald Trump in Florida?
I have no idea.
So it was really weird that story came out.
The county that's famous for voter irregularities is...
West Palm.
Well, yeah, West Palm. I was going to say Broward, which is Fort Lauderdale.
Broward too.
Yeah, so. That's where there's a lot. Okay, in the remaining minutes, we're going to talk to you about spooks working in social media and tech companies. So we're going to start with a New York Post article. The FBI blasts conspiracy theorists over the Twitter files. The FBI claims to provide critical information to protect the files claim to provide critical information to protect the company. So the FBI says anybody that believes this stuff that's coming out from Elon Musk, you're a conspiracy theorist.
That's right. So, yeah, they're taking offense at this in a big way now. They had been silent for a few days, but not anymore. The FBI said Wednesday that Revelations agents pressured Twitter to muzzle its own users for so-called misinformation and foreign influence, and falsely warned of a hack and leak operation involving first son Hunter Biden, were just business as usual. They said the correspondence between the FBI and Twitter show nothing more than examples of our traditional, long-standing, and ongoing federal government and private sector engagements, which involve numerous companies over multiple sectors and industries. And that was the FBI telling the Post in a statement in response to the latest jaw-dropping revelations from the Twitter files. It said the men and women of the FBI work every day to protect the American public. It is unfortunate that conspiracy theorists and others are feeding the American public misinformation with the sole purpose of attempting to discredit the agency. Well, they've only published truth so far.
Yes.
So is truth misinformation?
Are they saying that the Twitter files are Russian disinformation?
No, they're just calling the people that release it conspiracy theorists. So if you release truth, you're a conspiracy
Right.
theorist.
Yeah.
So,
well, let's show you some things that are quite shocking here. Daily Mail today. This is number 38. Here we go. Spooks infiltrate Silicon Valley. Facebook is riddled with ex-CIA agents, including President's briefer, who now runs harmful content team. So many ex-FBI work at Twitter, they have their own Slack channel. And Google is rife with CIA. And the Daily Mail published photographs, as you see right there. These are ex-intelligence agency employees who work at Facebook, Google, and Twitter, of course, other companies like Microsoft. So,
and these aren't the only ones. These are just a few that they've skimmed off the top.
That they were able to verify that these social media or tech company employees did indeed work for the CIA or the FBI or the NSA. So we're gonna go through some of the key highlights of this article. It is quite long. I recommend you go to the Daily Mail newspaper online and read the full report. And they got their material from Mint Press.
Right.
So and we're going to show you Mint Press here in a few minutes. They did the outstanding work, and then Daily Mail picked up on it and expanded it. So let's start with number 40. Former U.S. government intelligence agents are now working across Silicon Valley in senior roles dedicated to censoring misinformation. A large number of ex-officers from the FBI, CIA, NSC, and State Department have taken positions at Facebook, Twitter, and Google.
And this revelation comes amid fears that the FBI was operating control over Twitter censorship and the Hunter Biden laptop story.
You know what this means, Doc? Those of us who have been deplatformed and silenced on social media, we now know it was coming from the intelligence agencies who have their operatives inside the tech companies. So what we suspected is now true. They called us conspiracy theorists. The FBI is still calling us conspiracy theorists, but we've been saying for years, look, I'll go back to the beginning of Facebook and these other companies. And we were saying, 10, 12 years ago, these companies were funded, they were seeded with government money, dark money. You know what dark money is? It's covert operations money. These companies, these social media companies, they got their seed money from intelligence agencies. They've always been intelligence agency operations.
Because social media companies, what do they gather? Intelligence, information.
Data.
Right.
Big data. And they're also used for two things, Doc. To stop dissent against the official narrative of the deep state. Number two, to promote the narrative of the deep state. Those are two main duties, purposes of of the social media companies. They use bots, fake accounts. They're computers.
Yes.
All right. Billions, I'm going to say billions, millions of them. It might be, but who knows? Millions of bots that are posting things on social media to make real humans believe that the majority of people want these crazy ideas like transgenderism. See, they're changing the way people think. They're using social media to change the way people think about core ideas involving morality and patriotism. It is a mind control operation, psychological warfare, and it was funded by the CIA from the very beginning. They're running psyops on the American people. And now it's expanded worldwide. You can get into the minds of people all over the world. So let's get back to the article, because they give some specific names.
So the Twitter files have revealed the close relationship with the FBI and how the Bureau regularly demanded accounts and tweets be banned in suspicious contact before the Hunter laptop story was censored. The documents detailed how so many former FBI agents joined Twitter's ranks over the past few years that they created their own private Slack channel. For those who don't know what Slack is a big communications tool that a lot of businesses use for in-house communication. There were so many of them, Rick, they had their own private channel within Slack.
Just so that the ex-FBI agents, if you buy that line, ex, so that the former FBI agents working at Twitter had their own channel to talk to themselves about how they were going to operate inside the company.
And we're not talking 2 or 3 ex-FBI agents or even a couple dozen. We're talking about hundreds of people from the former spook agencies infiltrated in all these social media companies.
Well, we'll give you an example. A report by Mint Press, Alan McLeod, identifies dozens of Twitter employees who had previously held positions at the Bureau by tracking down their LinkedIn profiles.
Right.
He also found that former CIA agents made up some of the top ranks in almost every politically sensitive department at Meta, the parent company of Facebook, Instagram, and WhatsApp. And in another report, McLeod detailed the extent to which former CIA agents started working at Google.
So Daily Mail has now been able to track down 9 former CIA agents who are working or have worked at Meta, formerly Facebook, including Aaron Bierman, the senior policy manager for misinformation at the company, who had previously written the president's daily briefings. So at one point, this gentleman had access to the president on a daily basis. Mm-hmm. And now, you would say it's a lateral move. Mm-hmm. Now he's in charge of misinformation over at Facebook.
Yes.
So 6 others have worked for other intelligence agencies before joining the social media giant, many of whom have posted recently about Facebook's efforts to tamp down on so-called covert influence operations. So we'll give you some examples here. So see if you notice a pattern here in the names too. David Agranovich, a former intelligence officer at the National Security Office, serving at the White House, even seemed to have dismissed the Twitter files, which have been released over the past few weeks and show an apparently coordinated effort to quash certain stories. Meanwhile, at Twitter, Daily Mail was able to find 8 former FBI agents working in divisions of, quote, trust and security, as well as one man who had allegedly worked in psychological operations at the National Security Council. So we got the PSYOPs folks at work, Rick. Others, though, like Christy Cannell, Google's former vice president of trust and safety, don't you like those terms, trust and safety, have gone from their jobs at big tech companies to serving in intelligence organizations. Kay Nagalo is now the chief of staff for the Department of Homeland Security.
It's just a revolving door. So they're going from spook agency to social media, then social media back to spook agency.
And so in many ways, it's just one big company, isn't it?
It is, the firm.
So we mentioned Aaron Bierman before. Aaron Bierman left his job as a senior analytic manager at the CIA back in July 2019 to become senior policy manager for misinformation at Meta. I think it's interesting they have a policy manager for misinformation. Yes. Speaking of his job, in a video posted to Facebook, he explains that he is the manager of the team that writes the rules for Facebook, determining what is acceptable and what is not. He says he has to find a balance between harmful content and protecting freedom of speech.
So that means TruNews was removed from Facebook on the direction of Aaron Bierman.
Well, if he writes the rules, then it's his responsibility, right?
I would say so.
So now, for more than 17 years prior to accepting the job at Facebook, Aaron prepared and edited the president's daily briefing, writing and overseeing intelligence analysis to enable senior U.S. officials to make decisions on the most critical national security issues, according to his LinkedIn profile.
Do you think his briefings to the president had a pro-Zionist tint?
Maybe a little, maybe just a little bit there. And you thought Facebook was all about trading recipes and cat pictures. No, they have high-level CIA agents that are monitoring the misinformation for you at Facebook. It said he focused especially on the impact of influence operations of social movements, security, and democracy, McLeod wrote in his report, but that section seems to have since been deleted. Still, it notes he led briefings for cabinet members, senior National Security Council officials, and members of Congress. So he was very well connected in the intelligence community.
And then another Bierman, this time Deborah Bierman, spent a decade working as a data intelligence analyst at the CIA before she was brought on as Meta's trust and safety manager. Not much is known about her work at the notoriously secretive agency, but her pre-agency publications indicate that she was a specialist on Syria.
Well, that means she had access to intelligence going on in the Middle East. And so
she also described on her LinkedIn that she is a former CIA analyst with 15 years of experience producing sophisticated strategic, technical, and statistical analysis to advance U.S. national security. Deborah is now tasked with advancing Deborah is now tasked with protecting Meta from threats and resolve issues with the sites.
So, another person, Chris Rose, has held a number of positions in the intelligence community before he joined Meta's oversight board in March 2020. His first foray into the field was as a counterterrorism analyst for the CIA. Think about that, folks. That plain old Facebook, right? They need counterterrorism analysts, in which he writes he assessed developments related to worldwide terrorism in support of U.S. policy makers and led team efforts in monitoring terrorism-related trends. He's a terrorist specialist, Rick. A terrorist specialist.
Yes, because
at Facebook.
They think people who believe in the Constitution of the United States are domestic terrorists. That's why they're working there, Doug. Let's jump down to, because of time, there's a lot more. And again, I would recommend you read there's two articles you want to read, the Daily Mail article and then the Mint Press article. I want to go down to number 62 because this is the key article from Mint Press. But the Daily Mail never mentioned what the Mint Press reported. The former Israeli spies working in top jobs at Google, Facebook, and Microsoft.
Now, think about that, folks. So Daily Mail reported on, well, you know, there's those spooks, FBI, CIA, NSC, State Department.
But they never mentioned the Israeli spies.
Not a single one in their article. But Mint Press does.
But they did mention Bierman, and we got a number of people that could qualify as being at least pro-Israeli Zionism.
But then there's those from the Mint Press article that we can say, absolutely, they're from the Israeli intelligence community.
Unit 8200.
Right. And we've talked about them before. They are the elite intelligence unit in Israel. A Mint Press study has found that hundreds, look at that, hundreds Former agents of the notorious Israeli spying organization Unit 8200 have attained positions of influence in many of the world's biggest tech companies, including Google, Facebook, Microsoft, and Amazon. Hundreds, Rick, and that's just the ones they know about.
So if we went back in time and we had social media 80 years ago, and an article said, a report has found that hundreds of former Nazi SS agents are working in American technology companies.
We'd be pulling our hair out, saying, we got to find all these Nazis. We got to get them out.
Back then, the FBI actually would have hunted them down and shot them.
Right, instead of hiring them. So
they'd had shootouts.
So, well, the Israeli Defense, in case you don't know who this is, the Israeli Defense Forces Unit 8200 is infamous for surveilling the indigenous Palestinian population, amassing information on individuals for the purpose of blackmail and extortion. According to employment website LinkedIn, there are currently at least 99 former Unit 8200 veterans currently working for Google. This number almost certainly underestimates the scale of the collaboration between the two organizations. For one, this does not count former Google employees, nor does it include those without a public LinkedIn account or those who do have an account but have not disclosed their previous affiliations with the high-tech Israeli surveillance unit. But you know, you got 100 there.
And today
they're cleaning up. Everybody's cleaning up.
Everybody cleaned up their LinkedIn bio.
Give you an example of a few that are working at Google. You got Gabriel Godel. Between 2010 and 2016, Godel served in Unit 8200, rising to become head of learning at the organization, leading a large team of operatives who sifted through intelligence data to understand patterns of hostile activists, in his own words, transmitting that information to superiors. Then you have Jonathan Cohen. Cohen was a team leader during his time at Unit 8200. He has since spent more than 13 years working for Google in various senior positions and is currently head of insights, data, and measurement. And then Ori Daniel. Between 2003 and 2006, Daniel was a technical operations specialist with Unit 8200. After a brief stint with Palantir, he joined Google in 2018, rising to become head of global self-service for Google Waze. So that means, for those of you that have the Waze app on your phone, Waze is a traffic app and everything, all that data, guess where it's going?
Israel.
It's going to Israel, folks. And so
they know where you're traveling?
Yeah. So why would a foreign government need to map out every single road and highway in another country?
And where its citizens are driving.
Yes. To know where every stop sign is, to know where every intersection is, to know where every off-ramp for every road in an entire country. Guess where it's going? It's going to Israel. Then you have Ben Burkhart. For nearly 5 years, between 2007 and 2011, Burkhart served as a cyber intelligence officer with Unit 8200, where he commanded strategic teams of elite officers and professionals. And since 2016, he has worked for Google. Between 2018 and 2020, he concentrated on tackling controversial content, disinformation, and cybersecurity. And today, he is a product partnership manager for Google in London.
So controversial content, would that include talking about Israeli Defense Forces shooting Palestinian boys in the head?
Yes. Or if maybe somebody reading a headline from an Israeli newspaper on TV, for instance, they would know, well, hey, you can't read that. That's for us.
See, that happened to us. We read too many Israeli news articles on this program. We got shut down on YouTube. We got shut down on Facebook. We got kicked off of Twitter. I mean, just now we know who's inside. It's not just the agencies calling these companies saying, hey, we want this done. They have their people inside the social media companies. Just like we've said for years that there are psychological operations agents inside the news networks.
Right.
We also now see that the intelligence agencies have their people inside the social media companies.
And now you have foreign intelligence agents that are working inside these social media companies, specifically Israel. Specifically Israel.
That's right. Now, we've talked about Google. Let's switch over to Meta, which is the parent company of Facebook. Do they have any Israeli agents working for them?
Well, not only do they have, but they actively recruit from the ranks of Unit 8200. So Facebook has been doing this for a while, both for Facebook, Instagram, and WhatsApp. And undoubtedly, one of the most influential people at Meta is Emmy Palmer. Now, Emmy Palmer is one of 23 individuals who sit on the Facebook Oversight Board. He is described by Mark Zuckerberg as Facebook's Supreme Court. The Oversight Board collectively decides what content to accept and promote on the platform and what should be censored, deleted, and suppressed.
Right, that right there is worth everything that we've just watched and talked about. That
foreign intelligence agents.
Foreign intelligence agent is the most influential person at Facebook.
Yes.
To decide
what gets seen,
what content is acceptable and what is going to be promoted and what must be censored, deleted, and suppressed.
Now,
Facebook is a tool of the Israeli intelligence agencies.
Now, Palmer was not some rank and file spook working for Unit 8200. Palmer is a Unit 8200 veteran and later on went on, Rick, to become the general director of the Israeli Ministry of Justice. In this role, she directly oversaw the stripping away of Palestinian rights and created a so-called Internet Referral Unit, which would find and aggressively push Facebook to delete Palestinian content on its platform that the Israeli government objected to.
So Israel has their people inside Facebook to censor American citizens.
Yes.
Who speak up in defense of Palestinians who are treated like cattle by the Israelis.
Well, and Unit 8200, their whole lab was the West Bank in Gaza.
Yes.
That was their lab.
They experimented on them.
And now we're all Palestinians now.
That's right.
Every one of us now.
That's right.
They did practice there, but now everybody.
The occupation's going global through technology. And the Israelis will control speech worldwide eventually, if they get their way. They don't have to be big in numbers. They just have to control the technology.
Right.
The means of communication.
Now, other ex-Unit 8200, if you can be an ex-Unit 8200, hold influential positions. For instance, E.L. Klein, the head of data science for Facebook Messenger since 2020, served for fully 6 years as a captain in the controversial Israeli military unit. Today, he is tasked with handling privacy issues for billions of users of Meta's platforms. Another Unit 8200 leader now working in big tech in America is Eli Zeitlin. 2 years after leaving Unit 8200, Zeitlin was employed by Microsoft and rose to become the corporation's senior development lead, becoming, in his own words, the go-to person in file processing and cloud protection for the company. Now, Rick, there's a lot of companies and businesses out there that use Microsoft and various Microsoft products. He is the head of the cloud development for that, for Microsoft.
So just think about how many intelligence agents, including foreign intelligence agents, have access to your communications and your documents.
And every message that you send in your company, every conversation that you've had, legal conversations, HR conversations, HR data.
Private, just personal conversations.
Right.
You have to think that somebody in a government agency, even though they're working at a corporation, is monitoring your digital communications. And so if you're using Microsoft Teams or any of these other platforms like Slack, we now know that there are Israeli intelligence agents in high-level positions at these companies. They're monitoring everything. They know your plans. They know your strategies. They know everything. They're reading everything, Doc. Who can make war with the beast?
When they control the entire system. I mean, and you've got to know that there's this incestuous relationship that's going on with these former, if you call them former, these Unit 8200 agents over the past years, and our own intelligence community, that there's information going back and forth. We're sharing that information. We allow the Israelis to gather, and we do a trade-off with them too.
Yes. Well, there are many more that we could cite. It's the same thing. I recommend you go to Mint Press, read the article for yourself, share it with as many people as possible. It's quite shocking, but not surprising. It's just confirming what many of us have suspected for a long, long time. That it's not just American intelligence agencies, it's Israel's intelligence agency deeply embedded inside American social media, technology, news, and entertainment corporations. And they are changing the way people think. They're monitoring the mood of the country.
And they can change the mood.
And they can change the mood of the country.
Dial it in.
Yes. Yes. That's what's happening. And they were able to unseat a president. And now they're going to put him in prison. That's another story. For us, this is our last newscast for 2022. We always close our office during the Christmas week to give our team a break. A lot of our team members are from out of state, and they don't get a chance to see their family very much. And so we always close down at Christmas time, and that gives our employees opportunity either to go back home or for their relatives to come in and see them. Just keep a happy workforce here. It also gives Susan and me a break. We don't take vacations. I don't get any time off. And so this Christmas week, this is when Susan and I just stay home and catch up on my sleep. And I could just sit around the house and enjoy a nice day with Susan every day for a week and not be thinking about news and everything that we do every day. So that's what we're going to be doing. However, Doc and I have pre-recorded programs, so there will be something that will be on the app and the website throughout tomorrow and all the way through next week. And then we will be back, business as usual, on January 2nd. Now, that's a holiday for you if you're in the United States. Most places will be closed January 2nd because it's the Monday after New Year's Day, and they make that a holiday. But we're not going to be doing a holiday. We will be back, and because we're going to take the entire week off to rest and recuperate. And it has been a challenging year. I've told a couple of people, 2022 was a great year if it wasn't for the problems. It was a great year for us. We had a lot of problems, a lot of challenges, and God's grace was sufficient, and we got through all of them. And I'm very, very grateful. And we have just a few more challenges that need to be solved that are hangovers from 2022, and that'll be fairly soon. And we're looking forward to 2023. Jesus Christ is coming soon, and that's our mission here, is to tell everybody, to shout it from the housetop. And I'm going to step it up in 23, talking about telling people that Jesus Christ is coming. And that's the purpose. If Jesus Christ came this week, are you satisfied with what you did in 2022 for his kingdom? Would you be satisfied? Could you say, I did everything I could? I contributed. I spoke. I did everything I could to promote the news that Jesus Christ is coming. Could you say that you did it all in 2022? Well, if not, we get another chance in 2023, and we'll go at it again. But let's double down. Let's do more. And let's be more effective. And let's tell people that the King of Kings is coming and that this whole world is going to go away. It literally is going to burn up and not even ashes will be left. There'll be a brand new earth and a brand new heaven, a brand new cosmos. God's going to start new. He's not going to keep this old stuff. He's going to gather his saints together, and he's going to give us a brand new cosmos. That's the good news. Our sins are forgiven, and we will live with our Heavenly Father forever. I want to tell everybody about that, and I hope you'll join in with us in 2023. If you can, over the next week, I ask you that you give TruNews your very best offering. Help us with all the expenses that we have and help us to go into 2023 with a war chest and be able to face whatever obstacle comes our way or grab whatever opportunity comes our way. And so if you're able to donate between now and December 31st, we will be greatly appreciative, and thank you very much. We love you. Thank you. Merry Christmas, and make sure you watch tomorrow's TruNews. It's a great, true story about the Silent Night Christmas Carol. Take care. We love you.